A very warm good evening to one and all. Welcome back to the today's session. Today our guest speaker name is Dr. Arpana Sandeep Pareek ma'am, HOD and Professor Department of Repertory from ABD HMC Chandwad College. So ma'am will be taking research methodology for homeopathy. Over to you, Priya.
Audible?
Yeah.
Yes, yes, you are audible. Yeah.
Good evening, everyone. So today I'll be giving a short introduction about Dr. Aparna Parekh ma'am. Her educational qualification is PHMS MD Homeopathy PhD scholar, and she's from Bhopal. Her achievements are she's awarded with Soviet Land Nehru Award in drawing competition in 1990. She received gold medal in first, second, and third BHMS University examination. She also secured third position in PhD entrance examination conducted by MUHS in October 2016. She is honored with Best Contribution in the institution, honored with Young Achiever Award 2022 from Institute of Scholars, Bangalore, honored with Homeo Gaurav Samman 2023 on 10 April 2023 at Patna, honored with Noble Indian Eminent Professor Award 2024 in Homeopathic Repertory from International Multidisciplinary Research Foundation, Institute of Higher Education Research, Vijayawada. She received Women Icon Award 2024 as Women World Records and Awards of International on 7 March 2024. She also was awarded with Shikshak Ratna Samman by the Fair Vision Foundation, an NGO from Lucknow, UP, on 5/9/2024. She also was awarded with 8 National Metro Medica Master Award 2024 from Gang Homeo online platform for AIPGT and other competitive examinations in homeopathy. She's a professor and HOD at Department of Repertory, CCRH Nodal Officer, Central Council for Research in Homeopathy, ex-BOS member, Madhya Pradesh Medical Science University, Jabalpur, faculty member of Health Science Education and Technology of MUHS Nasik, faculty member of Research Methodology of MUHS Nasik, and also she's a member of various college committees, editor of the book Futuristic Trends in Medical Sciences, Volume 3, Book 3. Her book, Solving Emotional Issues Naturally Through 38 Flower Remedies, was also published. Thank you. Over to Dr. Lavanya ma'am.
So, am I audible? Over to you, Tahima, regarding the ICO introduction.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the hi, this is Yamina, and I would like to do a heartiest and warm welcome to all participants to the guest speaker. I will be informing about our dearest family, that is All India Homeopathic Students and Youth Association. ICR tries their best to bring all the participants, the knowledge seeker, connecting the bridge towards the pearl of our ocean, that is our guest speakers, researchers, so that we can go fulfill the future. ICR is dedicated to promoting homeopathy, fostering unity among students and professionals, and advancing homeopathic education and research. ICR was founded on 31st of October 2009 with a vision of unite, inspire, and empower homeopathic enthusiasts to shape the future of healthcare. Not only that, we have the objectives so that we can unite the homeopathic students and youth nationwide, so that we can promote excellence in homeopathic education, research, practice, and provide a dynamic platform for knowledge sharing, collaboration, and growth, so that we can support and empower homeopathic professionals organize impactful conference, seminars, workshops, and training programs. We have the key initiatives, that is our national and international conference, seminars, and workshops. Homeopathic awareness and programs and community outreach has also been conducted, and we will be doing it henceforth. Training and certification program for students and professionals. We also published newsletters, journals, and research paperwork, giving our students so that they can provide their works and we can publish it in our magazines. Strategic collaboration with homeopathic organizations and institutes. We are also open for the membership for the students who are in UG, PG, and PhD, youth homeopathic professionals, homeopathic institutions, and colleagues. We are governed by the national governing bodies, state committee, and local units. We also have our signature event, International Ayush Conference, National Homeopathic Conference, state-level seminars and workshops, webinars, and online training programs. Thank you so much. Over to you, Lalani ma'am.
Thank you, Tahima. Over to you, ma'am. Session is all yours. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Lavanya ma'am and rest of the members. First of all, I am very much thankful to the organizer who have invited me on this big platform. And they have allotted me a topic that is called a research methodology for homeopathy. So as we know that research methodology is required not only in homeopathy, but in different pathies also. But we should know, as a part of a homeopath or after doing BHMS, everyone wants to do the post-graduation. So why we need this subject research methodology to be studied? Because while doing MD as a part of a curriculum, we have to write the dissertation, we have to write the synopsis or protocol. At that time, we should know what methodology we have to use while doing a research. As a part of a curriculum or as a part of the academic assignment, we have to make a dissertation for final submission so that we can get a postgraduate degree. So now I've start my topic, why we have to study the research methodology. So research methodology in homeopathy. Today we'll study the research methodology in homeopathy. It focuses on studying the efficacy, safety, and mechanism of homeopathic treatment using a blend of scientific and qualitative approaches. So while doing research methodology in homeopathy, we have to focus on what is the efficacy of homeopathic treatment, how safely we can prescribe the medicine, and how the homeopathic mechanism of working of homeopathic medicine in a combination of a scientific approach and a qualitative approach. Both approach we have to follow. And this research methodology is needed because it provides a structured framework for conducting research. Suppose if I want to conduct a research on a particular remedy given to a particular patient, shall it be efficacy of like a efficacy of a natramur in treating depression? Suppose my research topic is like that. So for doing that research, I required a structured framework, that what I have to do, first thing what I have to do, second thing what I have to do, and in what way I have to conclude that research. So this research methodology guides researcher. Who is researcher? Students are researcher. Who is doing research is researcher. So it guides researcher in number one, planning the research, then executing that research, and analyzing their studies. Whatever study they are doing, students are doing, or a researcher is doing, they have to analyze their study, ensuring the study should be valid, reliable, and the result should be accurate. So this is an introduction for a homeopathy. Now there are challenges and unique principle of homeopathy, such as individualized treatment and potentization require innovative research method. So in homeopathy, we require some innovative research method. Not only in homeopathy, whatever research you are doing, there should be an innovation. Nowadays, it is time for critical evaluation so that we can popularize our pathy by embarking upon clinical research. to make it evidence-based medicine. That particular medicine is very efficacious, or the particular medicine has effectivity in curing the particular type of disease. So to know how to do the medical research and how to do it well, a sound knowledge of research methodology is essentially required. Without the knowledge of research methodology, one cannot do the research. Therefore, in MD curriculum, in part 1, there is a paper of research methodology. So it is very much necessary to study the research methodology subject, research methodology and biostat. So in this research methodology, it is a cohesive activities, systematic activity comprising several successive steps. So for doing research methodology, we should know there are successive steps which are as follows. So we will see this step. So research process steps are: number 1, before starting our thesis writing or dissertation writing, we have to prepare the synopsis. And before preparing the synopsis, we should have all the things in our hand. First, we should be ready to define the research problem. We have to do the literature survey, rationale and study justification. We have to develop the hypothesis. We have to select the study design. We have to prepare goals and objective. We have to take informed consent and ethical consideration. We have to concentrate on material and methods. Then we have to do the intervention and data collection. After that, data handling and statistical analysis. We have to also maintain the patient privacy and confidentiality. And at last, in the last, we have to disseminate our research outcome. So one by one, I will explain you all these points. These are the steps in conducting research. So this is one of the part of research methodology. So the first part, how to formulate the research problem. As we know, at the very onset, the researcher must single out the problem he wants to study. That is, he must decide the general area of interest or aspect of a subject matter that he would like to inquire into. Initially, the problem may be stated in a broad general way, and then the ambiguities, if any, relating to the problem would be resolved. Then a general topic is converted into a specific research problem. Essentially, 2 steps are involved in formulating the research problem. Number 1, understanding the problem thoroughly and rephrasing the same into meaningful terms from an analytical point of view. So, for defining the research problem at the very outset, the researcher must single out the problem he wants to study. For example, in a hospital, if a BHMS student is working and he want to do and he had taken the admission in the PG course, in a MD course, and he had seen that in his hospital, there is a ward, labor ward, in which he had seen that lots of patients are coming day by day, and he had found that most of the deaths are occurring because of the PPH. Because of the PPH, most of the deaths are occurring. So now this problem is coming in his mind or her mind, think why these deaths are occurring continuously. So the problem is why these deaths are occurring. Now the question has come in his mind. So if he wants to do the research on this particular topic, during labor, most of the deaths of PPH are occurring. So what he do? He follow all the steps which I will tell you later. So what problem he had defined? That deaths are occurring due to postpartum hemorrhage. So for this, what should first he start? He has to prepare the title. It should be descriptive, concise, and it may need to be revised after completion of the writing of the protocol to reflect more closely the sense of the study. First of all, you should know what is the protocol. Have you heard the name of synopsis? It is a synonym to synopsis. That means your brief idea about the dissertation. Whatever research you are doing, you have to prepare a plan of that research. The first thing I will do this, the second thing I will do this. So this is my planning. That is the brief idea about my research project is called as a synopsis. So the problem, whatever problem the student had decided is to be investigated, must be defined unambiguously. there should be clarity in that particular problem, and care must be taken to verify that the project title, hypothesis, and objectives are well in concordance. So they have to concentrate, whatever research they are doing, they have to concentrate on the title, whatever title they are preparing, what hypothesis they are developing, and what objectives they are writing. So while finalizing a study title, seriousness and prevalence of the problem and utility of the anticipated outcome should always be kept in point. What will be the outcome of my study? Suppose if I want to study the cause of the PPH, what are the homeopathic medicines available for the PPH? So what outcome will come when I will use particular homeopathic medicine for particular problem? So the best way of understanding a problem is to discuss it with one's own colleagues. First thing, they will discuss with their own colleagues or with those having some expertise in the matter. So everybody knows that for post graduation in homeopathy, the guide has been allotted. So in academic institution where MD courses are going on, the researcher can seek the help from a guide to define the research problem. And why the person has become guide? Because he is expertise, she is expertise, an experienced man or a woman, and has several research problem in general terms, and it is up to researcher to narrow it down and phrase the problem in operational terms. So for defining the research problem, he can take the help of colleagues or he can take the help of their guides, which has been allotted by the college. So the researcher must at the same time examine all available literature to get himself acquainted with the selected problem. Suppose the problem of PPH has been selected. Now I have to work on the PPH or postpartum hemorrhage. So he has to review the literature. The next point will be the literature. So there are two types of literature: conceptual literature, in which all the things about the PPH has been given, all the theories about the PPH has been given, and the empirical literature, in which the study has already been made. The study has already been conducted. So we have to review two types of literature: conceptual and empirical. This task of formulating or defining a research problem is a state of greatest importance in the entire research process. So the first point I have completed. Now second point, the second step, which I have shown you all the steps. In the second step of research methodology, we have to review the literature. So what is the process behind it? Once you have formulated the problem, that I have to work on that particular topic. Now a brief summary of it should be written down, of that particular problem. For this, the researcher should undertake extensive literature survey connected with the problem. What was the problem? Problem of the PPH. So now I have to conduct a student have to conduct the extensive literature survey. From where? One should undertake systematic surveillance of primary source by referring, number one, the student can refer academic journals, especially peer-reviewed journals. Conference proceeding. What is conference proceeding? If any conference is happening, before that a book is prepared, in that whatever things were happening will be happening in the conference are published. So that is called as a conference proceeding. Government reports, any government reports of research. Reference book. For PPH, I have to which book I have to refer? A obstetrics book. Review articles. The earlier studies, agar kuch hua hai to the earlier studies, if any, which are similar to the study, should be carefully studied. So from which sources the student will get the literature surveys? All these red color points, they will get the literature survey. So the review of literature should identify the current level of evidence for the safe and effective use of medicine. So what a review of literature should identify? What it will identify? What is the current level of evidence, so that a student can use the medicine effectively or safely. And at that time, it should be kept in mind that reference books and review articles might contain inaccurate information. Therefore, one should always survey primary references for in-depth analysis. Good review of literature done at this stage will be great help in designing the research study. Why this review of literature will help In what way? In designing the research study. And who will help? A good library. For this, you need a good library, will be great help to the researcher at this stage. Now the next point, the third point in the step is that there should be a rationale. That is the reason for conducting the study, why you are conducting the study. Justification, that means explaining our rationale in detail. And significance of the study, a justification of the importance of your research. So every research study invariably requires high skilled workforce and funds. Without funds, research can happen? No. So for doing any research, we required highly skilled workforce and definitely funds also. Therefore, before switching over, one should give problem specific reasons for conducting. Why I am conducting this reason? Why there is a problem? So for this, we have to give the problem specific reason in light of current knowledge, whatever knowledge is present, and justify convincingly why the problem needs to be researched, why this problem needs to be researched, why the problem of PPH is to be researched, because there are lots of deaths are occurring. So, and what will be its relevance? What is the relevance of studying that particular problem or doing that research? So, most relevant studies on the subject should be cited to support the rationale for the study. So this type of study will be done. Now next point come under the steps is the hypothesis. You have to develop the hypothesis. So the meaning of hypothesis is assumption. In Hindi it is called as a anuman lagana. So for what thing we have to develop a hypothesis? So having done through literary work on the research problem, first we have defined the problem, then we have done the literature survey, then rationale, then justification. Now formulate hypothesis. Research problem is in our hand. Now we can formulate the hypothesis, or a single hypothesis or a more hypothesis based on your logical or empirical assumption. Logic लगा के, empirical assumption करके. So be specific what you intend to test. What I intend to test, why deaths are occurring, so that the objectives and methodology of the study can be designed accordingly. So for doing the study design, you should develop a proper hypothesis, objectives and methodology, so that the objectives and methodology of the study can be designed accordingly. We have to design methodology also. What is the inclusion criteria? What is the exclusion criteria? What is the sample size? What is the study duration? What investigation we will do? This all will come under the methodology, and objectives may be primary and secondary. We have to prepare objective. So that will become later. So now after preparing hypothesis, one should be able to answer this question. What questions? Is the research hypothesis reasonable? Whatever hypothesis I have made, is it reasonable? Is it well justified and supported by basic scientific or clinical evidence? So this question should ask by the researcher. A good hypothesis should be simple, specific, and based on a good research question. If your research question is good, your hypothesis will be good. So for the hypothesis development, one should be able to answer all these three questions. Now next point comes under this, the study design. After preparing a hypothesis, so what are the different types of hypothesis, how it should be prepared, all these things will come under the how to prepare a synopsis. This is just an research methodology lecture, okay, how we have to do the research. But what are the subtypes come under this, we will study in detail in the topic that is called as a how to prepare a synopsis. So after preparing or developing a hypothesis, we should start designing the study. So everybody knows different types of study. So in this study design, after formulating the research problem, the next step is to prepare a research design. That is, he will have to state the conceptual structure within which research would be conducted. The preparation of such a design facilitates research to be as efficient as possible, yielding maximum information. The function of research design is to provide for the collection of relevant evidence with minimal expenditure of effort, time and money, so that your time will be less, money will be less, expenditure will be less. So for this preparing the study design, there are three things. For preparing the study design, three things we have to study. One is randomization, another one is blinding, and another one is the controlled trials. So randomization and blinding are the two important facets of any study design. The integrity of the investigator, experimenters, and credibility of the result substantially depend on the study design. So randomization and binding are the techniques that can help minimize and avoid bias on the part of investigator and the patient. Description of the study population, source and size of the population, and the place where study is to be performed should be considered well before finalizing the study design. So the integrity of the investigator, experimenter, and credibility of the result substantially depend on the study design. So description of the study population, source and size of population, and the place where study to be performed should be considered well before finalizing the study design. So these three things we study in the study design. One is randomization, another one is blinding, third one is control trial. So first is the randomization. So in randomization, each study patient is randomly assigned to receive either the study medicine or the placebo. Suppose if you want to study the medicine such as millefolium, suppose. So for this, you have to study the first millefolium. So if you have made a group of patient, so you have to give medicine millefolium to one group and to another group placebo. So each study patient is randomly assigned to receive either the study medicine, either you will give study medicine, particular study medicine to that group, or you will give placebo to that group. To generate randomization number, there is one app in the Google, you will see that is called as a research randomizer. For taking the sample, suppose you have 100 patients, so and you want to study only the 30 patient. So for this, you have to do the randomization. You have to take only the 30 patient from among the 100. So in this way, you can select the patient with the help of research randomizer. There is one app on the Google. If you will type the research randomizer, you will get that particular app. So once randomization is done, the two groups are followed up. We have to prepare two groups during the trial, because you are doing the trial of that particular drug exactly in the same manner. The second thing is the blinding, that is called as a masking. So there are three things. One is single blind, another one is double blind, and third one is the non-blind. So blinding, also referred to as masking, is a crucial method for reducing bias in randomized clinical trials. If you are doing a clinical trial of a particular medicine, so we can do in the three forms, either in the single blind, double blind, or non-blind. So human behavior is influenced by what we know or believe. In research, there is a particular risk of expectation influence findings. Most obviously when there is some subjectivity in assessment leading to biased result. Blinding is used to eliminate such bias. So first is the single blind. Here, investigator knows the full facts, whereas volunteer patient do not know which study treatment they receive. Suppose we have given a medicine to a particular volunteer on whom we are doing the research. So a physician will know the medicine, but volunteer or a patient do not know the medicine. Do not know which study treatment they receive and whether they are getting a medicine or placebo. They do not know which, either they are getting a medicine or they are getting a placebo. Most homeopathic clinical research studies are single blinded. The research we are doing is a single blinded, and the double blind is here the experimenter or investigator doesn't know which medicine the patient is getting. Neither investigator nor volunteer, both are not knowing which medicines are giving to the volunteer. So And in a placebo controlled trial, a patient is getting medicine or placebo. In certain clinical trials in which any medicine can be prescribed as per the homeopathic principle of individualization, double blinding is not possible. It is not possible because the physician has to know the medicine. It is good when the investigator knows the medicine and volunteer is not knowing the medicine. The third type is the non-blind. What happens here? Both the investigator and the study patient are well aware of the intervention. The outcomes of non-blind trials are not so reliable. Scientists normally do not accept. Why volunteers should know the name of the medicine? So it is not a proper thing to do our trial with the help of non-blind method. Scientists normally do not accept such study and consider them meaningless. So the second is the blinding, and the third, these are called as a control trials. Different controls can be used in randomized control trial. That is called as a randomized control trial to answer different questions. One or more control groups may be required to comparison purpose depending on the study of objective. These control groups may be, whatever may be the control group, either placebo treatment. Suppose there are two groups, understand. Suppose there are two groups. One group is the patients who are taking the medicine, suppose the millifolia. Another group of a placebo treatment. Another group may be conventional treatment. Any type of conventional treatment which is very much popular is called as a conventional treatment accepted by the WHO. Suppose the second group is taking no treatment. The second group may be of a control group, may be of a different dosage, potency of the same medicine. So now in homeopathy, which study we can use. So I will not explain this in detail because there is a separate 1 hour will require to explain all this study. So there are different types of study design. Everybody knows there are how many types of study design, because most of the students, I think they actually they have either they have done the PG or they are doing PG. So there are different types of research such as descriptive research, analytical research, applied research, fundamental research, quantitative research, qualitative research, conceptual research, and empirical research. So there are different types of research, and similar to that there are different types of study designs are also. So what are those study designs? So there are different types of study design. We can call it a observational study design, descriptive or case series study design, case control design, cross-sectional study, cohort study, experimental study, control trials, or meta-analysis. So these are some examples. But in homeopathy, which study design we have to do? Number one, observational study we can do, experimental study, cross-sectional study, cohort study. Cross-sectional means prospective, cohort means retrospective, randomized control trial, just I have told you, non-randomized clinical trial, and pilot study. So this type of study we can do. And in research methodology step, this study we have to, among these 7 studies we can generally do in homeopathy. So these are the 7 studies generally homeopaths do in their research project. So next point of step is the goals versus objective. For doing the research, we should prepare objective. There are 2 types of objective, primary objective and the secondary objective, and one are goals. So objective should be simple, not complex, and stated in advance. We should not prepare our objective after the research. We have to prepare our objective before the research, because we have to know the outcome of our research. So how can we prepare the objective after the research? So always prepare the objective in advance, and after the statement of the primary objective, secondary objective may be mentioned. So it should not be like that you have written the secondary objective first and primary objective later. So it is advisable to resist from inclusion of too many objectives out of curiosity and over enthusiasm. Do not write more objectives. Primary objective should always be one, and secondary objective may be 3 or 4. So objective should be conformity with the title. It should be related with the title. नहीं तो title कुछ और है, objective कुछ और. It should not be like that. Objective should be in conformity with the title and the stated hypothesis without any ambiguity. Your objective should contain your whatever hypothesis you have developed and should be clear. Now, can the objective reasonably be achieved? Suppose you have prepared 4 objectives, so 4 secondary objective and 1 primary objective. So you should ask yourself the question, can the objective reasonably be achieved? Should after my research, this objective will be achieved? So this question should ask to yourself. Then you prepare your objective. So if it is possible, then write objective, otherwise not. Now, primary objective preferable should be 1. Just I have told you, primary objective should be 1. And if you want to write more objective, that will be the extension. Extension of primary objective which are not covered under main objective can be taken up as secondary objective. Suppose there is a case of obesity. So in obesity, my primary objective is that I have to reduce the weight of a particular lady. Okay. Now secondary objective, I have to prevent, or for secondary objective, to maintain the blood glucose level up. My primary objective is to reduce the obesity, but my secondary objective is to check the blood sugar level, and if there is a blood sugar level, I have to reduce the blood sugar level. So whatever the preventive measures that I have to write in the secondary objective. So there is a way to write. There are several examples of this. Suppose if a lecture has been organized for how to write the objectives or how to write the hypothesis, it will be better for me because I cannot explain in 1 hour all the things. Because the objective, for writing the objective, I will require half an hour. Objective should be always SMART, specific, measurable, achievable, time-bounded, and reliable. So for objectives, you should know several points. For writing the objective, you should know the different verbs. In which verbs I have to write the objective. For this, I will require a different lecture. So this is all about the goals and objective. Now next, very much important point, ethics and informed consent. For this, just read this point. Whatever I am showing you, read this point. No one shall be subjected to torture or to cruel, inhuman or degrading treatment or punishment. Understood? In particular, no one shall be subjected without his free consent to medical or scientific experimentation. If you are doing any experimentation on any particular person, you should take a consent of that particular person that I am doing so and so. You give me consent. Because suppose if you are doing a experimentation on a particular person and that particular thing harms the patient, if it is a cruel thing or it is an inhuman thing or it is a degrading treatment or punishment, then this should not be done. For this purpose, we have to follow the ethics, and for this ethics, there should be an ethical committee in every college. And after passing this synopsis or protocol through ethical committee, then it has to be finalized. Second thing, we have to take a consent of a patient that we are doing so and so research. So there are 2 things, ethics, and one by one I will tell you about the ethics and informed consent. So there are some international guidelines regarding the ethical called as ethical guidelines for biomedical research involving human subject. Because we are doing research on human subject, we are not doing research on animal. So there are some guidelines and we have to implement these guidelines in each clinical trial, whatever trial you are doing. So as ethics committee, according to each institution, guidelines should review each trial. So there should always be ethical committee, the colleges who are running PG courses. So ethical committee should pass that particular synopsis or a thesis topic or thesis title. The protocol should have a description of ethical. So the protocol which you have written, the synopsis which you have written should have an ethical consideration relating to the study. This should not be limited to providing information on how or from whom the ethics approval will be taken, but this section should document the issues that are likely to raise ethical concern. Whatever ethical concerns should raise, that should be documented. It should also describe how investigator plan to obtain ethical informed consent from the research participant. How they will take a informed consent from the research participant. So this is an example. Suppose if a participant is minor, so that informed consent should be signed by a parent or guardian. If the participant is not literate, read it out, take a thumb impression of that particular participant. The approved version of protocol must have copies of informed consent form. Synopsis should contain the informed consent form, both in English and local language. PG students are here, they know. Some PG students have prepared their synopsis in which they have kept the informed consent form of the patient in English as well as the local language. Suppose I am residing in Maharashtra, so in Marathi language, they have kept their informed consent form. The ICF is to be approved by the ethics committee, and confidentiality of each participant should always be maintained. And whatever things the patient has shared with you, participant has shared with you, you should be always keep a confidential. Now the main points come here: methods and materials. In research methodology, what method we have to follow and what material we have to take. In brief, I will explain you, because it is also a big topic. It will require more than 15 minutes. So materials and method. Research method may be understood as all those method techniques that are used for the conduct of research. And research method or technique does refer to the method the researcher used in performing research operation. While doing the research operation, whatever methods or techniques the researcher using is called as a method or technique or materials they have taken. In other words, all those methods which are used by the researcher during the course of studying his research problem are termed as research method. Whatever method the researcher is using is called as a research method. So research methodology is a way to systematically solve clinical or other research problem. It may be understood as a science of studying how an investigation is done scientifically. In it, we study the various steps that are generally adopted by a researcher in studying his research problem along with the logic behind it. What we are doing here? We are doing the different steps of research methodology. So this section of the protocol described in full detail method and technique used to conduct research operation, such as in this materials and method, one should know sample size. One should know study duration, and very important point is enrollment criteria. How will you enroll your patients? So one by one, I will explain you all 3 points. The first point is sample size. What sample size you will take? Nowadays, there are several apps are available in which you can calculate your sample size according to the prevalence of the disease. For this, you will involve statistical calculations. The number of participants to be enrolled in a study depends on many factors that the statistician would take into account while determining the sample size. So you can take the help of a statistician while deciding the sample size. And confidence interval and confidence level are the two essential criteria considered for working out sample size. These are the two terminologies we should know: confidence interval and confidence level, for working out the sample size. While calculating sample size, necessary adjustment is made. While calculating when you are calculating the sample size, now you have to make some adjustment, because some patient can be drop out for potential dropouts because their outcome status cannot be assessed on conclusion of the study. So you should make an adjustment for potential dropouts. Suppose you have taken a 35 patients, and in that from 35, 5 have been dropout. So you have to study on the third. So you should keep always the more patients or more participants. A professional statistician is the best person. This person will tell you to be consulted for working out a suitable sample. Always consult a statistician for calculating the sample size. But nowadays apps are available. You write down the prevalence, and the particular app will provide you the sample size. Now, it is important to determine the sample size prior to study commencement. Before starting the study, you should determine the sample size. In larger sample size, margin of error is less. Even the more meticulously conducted study may not be considered statistically valid and fail to address its research question if the sample size is too small. Vice versa, if the sample size is too large, it will be more difficult to handle and execute. So sample size should be in the middle, not too large, not too small. It will be more difficult to handle and execute the study and will be unnecessarily costlier. If sample size is more, you have to bear the expenditure, so it is costlier. So sample size should be at the middle level, not too more, not too less. Now, second thing about the material method, how much time will you require for doing this study or research? Estimated duration for the study from start of screening to last patient enrolled and finishing the study. So your duration, first you have registered the patient for your research, and when you have finished the study up to that, so your duration will be that. It is determined by the nature of the research problem, whether acute or chronic, or seasonal or of recurring nature. It is determined by only this factor. Chronic and recurrent problems are there. It should be are required to be followed up for a longer period as compared with acute. So the duration will be long. Sample size is also taken into consideration for deciding duration. Larger sample size may necessitate longer enrollment period to achieve the target, thus influencing study duration. Larger sample size is there, duration will be long. So third point is that enrollment criteria. So under enrollment criteria, we should study 3 points. One is inclusion criteria. Which patient I will include my study, and it is very important and highly study specific in terms of age. Which age I will consider, which gender I will consider, and which problem I will consider. And every participant is required to qualify this by way of clinical examination, lab investigation that are specifically spelled out for the study. Whatever lab investigation you will require in a study, that should be done while writing the inclusion criteria. Suppose I will take only the diabetic patient whose blood sugar will be only below 300 or above 200, in between that, above 200 and between 200 and 300. So before that you have to do the lab investigation कि ये इतना शुगर रहेगा, इन लोगों का जितना शुगर रहेगा उतने ही पेशेंट में लूंगा, उतने ही पार्टिसिपेंट में लूंगा. Each patient is examined and investigated accordingly in light of criteria for inclusion given in a predefined order. You should decide the inclusion criteria according to the predefined order, whatever you have taken in your study. Exclusion criteria, that means a patient may qualify for inclusion, that is not all. Investigator will look out for other predefined morbid state. Suppose the patient has already a disease, so we can exclude that particular patient. Suppose the patient has advanced pathology, something, so we can exclude that patient. Treatment history, medical health condition, that may bar the patient from inclusion in the study. We have not taken that particular patient or participant in our study. If found, excluded. Suppose if you are getting this type of patient, exclude them, because it will interfere with your study. Patient of a cancer, patient of a autoimmune disease, so you can exclude those patients. So these are guidelines that identify who will not be able to participate in the trial. So exclusion criteria will show you. Now diagnosis and laboratory investigation, just I have told you, you should include keep this diagnosis and laboratory investigation in your materials and method. Each patient at entry level undergoes prescribed set of pathological investigation according to your study. This pathological investigation I will need can be done so that there is no ambiguity about diagnosis of the study problem. Investigation can be done at in-house laboratory, either in your hospital, or can be outsourced. It will be easy if you will do in your particular hospital. As per the requirement of the study drafted in the protocol, whatever study you have written in your synopsis, investigation may be required during the intervention phase and on conclusion of the trial. दोनों वक्त लगेगा. First, when you have started the study, and when you have concluded your study. Protocol investigation may be required during the intervention phase, whatever interventions you are doing, what medicines you are prescribing, and at the conclusion of the trial also. Now intervention and data collection. Very fast I will go. So for intervention and data collection, we have to go like this. First, we have to do the baseline assessment. So what is baseline assessment? Type of data collected depends on the goals of the intervention and the theory of change. It can include questionnaires, lab test, or other medical information. That will come under the baseline assessment. After that, our case recording starts. So during intervention, first do the baseline assessment, then do the record detail history, then analyze the case, do the repertorization with a proper software, and then with the help of materia medica consultation, prescribe the remedy. And after that, for prescribing the remedy, you should know the potency and dosage. So intervention may vary from one study to another depending on hypothesis. Whatever may be the hypothesis, your intervention may vary to be tested and study design chosen. Concealment shall be maintained throughout the study. Periodical follow-up at predefined period is required to be mentioned. Whatever follow-up you are doing, it should be mentioned. On every follow-up visit, assessment is recorded again on a prescribed format. Assessment should also be written on a prescribed format. And different format design. So we have to prepare different format for baseline, periodical follow-ups, and final assessment. At the time of conclusion should be in conformity with the statistical requirement. Whatever requirements by the statistical process, so that data can be processed and analyzed. So in a particular way, you have to write follow-up so that at the time of data analysis, it should be very easier. Normally, follow-up prescribing is done in accordance with the principle of homeopathy as investigated in Organon of Medicine. Follow-up criteria according to 12th observation, first aggravation, then amelioration. Everybody knows about the Kent's 12 observation. So follow-up prescribing should be done accordance with the Kent's 12 observation. Throughout the intervention period, it is to be ensured through periodical monitoring that there is no deviation from the defined. Whatever guidelines you have defined previously, you should follow all those guidelines while doing the intervention. The patients who do not comply with the instruction and fail to report are treated as dropouts. If they are not following you, and fail to report, then you can consider them as a dropouts and not counted for final assessment. The next part is the statistical analysis and data handling. For this, on completion of the study, all the data generated during the trial are compiled on a format device for the purpose. This is called as a concluding report. Whatever data you have collected, all the data generated during the trial are compiled on a format. Then the researcher, with the help of statistician, get the data analyzed, which involve very closely related operations. And these statistical inferences are drawn after applying some test. You will know all these tests, chi-square test, t-test, f-test, and etc. And after analyzing the data, the researcher is in a position to test the hypothesis that he or she had formulated earlier. Now it's the time to test the hypothesis. Hypothesis, alternative, or null. So which hypothesis should be accepted? So hypothesis testing will result in either accepting the hypothesis or in rejecting it. The next thing, which is very important, during the whole research, you should maintain the patient confidentiality and privacy. Every precaution is taken to prevent invasion of patient privacy and breach of confidentiality, not only during the trial period, but even after the trial is over. In the whole period, you have to maintain the patient privacy and confidentiality also. Non-compliance may result in ethical as well as legal issue. If you will not do this, if you will do non-compliance, it will result in ethical or a legal issue. The last point of today's point is the dissemination of research outcome. Whatever research you did, whatever research you have performed, it should be spread. In what way? It should be shared. Your research is complete, you are very happy. Now you should disseminate your research. This is an example. If you have an apple and I have an apple, and if we exchange this apple, then you and I will still each have one apple. But you have an idea and I have an idea, and we exchange this idea, then each of us will have two ideas. So it is good if we share our ideas with other person. So research study is not considered complete until it is published. So after preparing your research, after conducting your research, you should publish your research in renowned journals or peer reviewed journals. And whatever result you got, it should be disseminated. Usko फैलाना चाहिए. To maximize the benefit from research publication resulting from research activities must be disseminated as broadly as possible to allow access by other researchers. Suppose I have done a research and I have published my paper, and if my juniors have come and they want some data, so they can see my published paper. That means in wider community this will be disseminated so that other person can take the benefit of it. So this is all about my today's lecture. Thank you very much for listening calmly and peacefully. If you have any question, Lavanya ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. I'm here, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much for the wonderful session. Even though there is a time limit, you have coped up with very well. Respected participants, the session is open for question and answers.
No question. Okay, ma'am. Can I leave, ma'am? Okay, thank you.
Hello, ma'am.
Huh?
Hello.
Hello.
Yes, ma'am. Just we'll have a small. I think everyone was clear with your lecture, ma'am. So just we'll have a small information regarding the content so that we can, ma'am.
Ma'am, your voice is very much breaking.
Hello, ma'am. Am I audible, ma'am?
Yeah, audible, but voice is breaking. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. I hope all have got the clear idea on the lecture. We are looking forward for many, ma'am. And we'll just have a small details regarding the conference, ma'am, upcoming conference, and then we'll end up the session, ma'am. Over to you, Monali.
Good evening, everyone. I am thrilled to inform that AHSA, All India Homeopathic Students and Youth Association, is going to conduct an extraordinary event, that is International Ayush Conference and Ayush Youth Festival 2025, scheduled on 12th January 2025 at Salt Lake, West Bengal, Kolkata. Many other activities like Global Youth Summit, Ayush Literacy Conclave, Arogya Fair, along with some exciting competitions like e-poster, article writing and drawing, etc. will also be organized over there. For more details and registration, you can get link of the conference from our YouTube description box and webinar chat box also. So don't miss out and save the date. Save the date now. Thank you. Over to you, Dr. Lavanya, ma'am.
Thank you, Monali. So, respected participants, hope you are enjoying the webinar series. We'll be conducting many more like this. So, we'll be back soon with the important session. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much for that wonderful session and enlightening us what is research and what is to be done, what are the process, what is the criteria to be followed. So, looking forward for many more, ma'am. Thank you all the participants for joining with us, and we hope you will be enjoying all the series and be a part of the conference also. So, thank you all. Thank you, and thank you so much to our media partner, Home 360 Degrees. Thank you all. Good night.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Okay, thank you very much.
All. Thank you.